Hello and welcome to the Work in Progress podcast with me, Colleta Macharia. I'm a life coach and author of the book, How to Design Your Career Game Plan. In today's episode, we'll be talking about a gift in the right hands. I want to start by telling you a story of a pair of scissors that my mother was gifted in a shop where she had been a loyal customer for many years. These were professional tailoring scissors, and please understand that my mom's tailoring experience only went as far as mending little tears in our clothes and sewing on buttons. So she never really used the scissors much. My siblings and I, on the other hand, used the scissors to cut brown papers to cover our school books. Now, in our little inexperienced hands, these scissors were cumbersome. They were huge and they were heavy for us, and so we even hardly cut straight with them. My father, on the other hand, found a totally different use for these scissors. Whenever he needed to keep the door open, he would get the scissors and use them as a door stopper. Now, that was a totally different use than the scissors were made for. And I heard Pastor Jerry of Redefined TV say that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is imminent. And I concur with Pastor Jerry and also add that as long as something is in the wrong hands, it is highly unlikely that its purpose and its value will be fully realized. And that reminds me of the parable of the talents. In this parable, the master is about to travel and he calls his servants and gives to each one a certain number of talents based on their abilities, and he says to them, do business with these until I return. And then he travels, and after some time he comes back and calls the servants because it's time for them to give account of how they use these talents. So the master realizes that of the 3 servants, 2 of them had actually followed his instructions. They had done business with his talents and they had doubled the initial amount of talents that they had been given. One of them, however, had simply hidden his talent in the ground, and so he gave his master the same talent he had been given before the master traveled. He had not done business with it, he had not done anything with it, and remember, it had been given to them according to their abilities. So it was not a question of lack of ability. I wonder to myself sometimes whether it was his attitude, because he told this master that I knew that you were an unreasonable servant who wants to reap where you did not sow. So that said something about the attitude of this servant. I was doing an internal audit, I call it, of some of the resources and gifts that I have, and I realized that there's one resource that I find myself working very hard to ensure that I am utilizing optimally, and this resource is time. Because when I think about using and misusing and underusing this resource, I must say that it is quite sobering when I realize that there actually are times where I find myself not using it properly. And I wonder whether there are resources that you find you are not utilizing well or that you are misusing. I would like to invite you to give yourself an internal audit and see what you find there with regard to your gifts and abilities and other resources such as time. And as you do this internal audit, I would even invite you to take it further and invite somebody that you trust to come and help you audit yourself. And this audit can be in the form of a SWOT analysis, where this person helps you, you ask them, what strengths do you see in me? What weaknesses do I have? What opportunities and threats do you perceive or do you see that are there that I should be aware of? So I believe that our strengths are given to us so that we can utilize them to meet needs, to take opportunities around us to support other people, and also to meet our own needs. And in fact, I further believe that we all, in one way or another, are gifts. When we are in the right hands, then we can achieve the purpose for which we were created. And we can generate value for ourselves and for other people. So my question is, are you a gift in the right hands? Do you remember the story of the scissors and how I wondered what story they would tell if they could? Well, that story is one that had a beautiful ending. Because in the end, my mom gifted these scissors to a seamstress friend of hers who appreciated the scissors so much and utilized them so well to generate value for herself and for the people that she served. For me, this is a story of emancipation from a life of underutilization and a life of abuse in our inexperienced hands when we used those scissors as a door stopper. So it finally transformed to a story of finding value and finding purpose when the scissors finally landed in the right hands. So after taking that internal audit that you've taken, I pray that the story you tell is one of being a gift in the right hands. It's a story of being in a place where you are not misused, underused, or even abused because your value and your purpose are known and appreciated. A story of a gift in the right hands. I want to end this episode with a moment of gratitude. And I want to say thank you to all the listeners that have been listening on the different podcast platforms and even to the viewers on YouTube. Thank you for all the wonderful messages that I have received from some of you telling me that you were speaking to me in that episode. And I also want to say a very big thank you to my producer, Colleta Macharia, for all the work that you have put into producing this podcast, and also for being very generous and gracious to allow us to use your original music in this podcast. Thank you, God bless you, and see you on the next episode. The Work in Progress podcast is brought to you by Cogent Afrique. Visit www.cogentafrique.com to check out learning and development opportunities for you, your team, organization, and family.